Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into how three wildly different speculative works use the exact same name to imagine humanity finding a home in the cosmos. We're going to look at three completely separate fictional planets, all named Hestia, created decades apart across totally different mediums. We've got a classic 1970s science fiction novel, a beautiful indie romance short story, and a modern scientific thought experiment that actually blew up on Reddit recently. By putting these side by side today, we're going to uncover some absolutely fascinating parallels about what it truly means for humanity to try and build a home out there among the stars.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with the hearth in the stars, move to Cherry's hostile Hestia, explore a luminous sanctuary, analyze the perfect super-Earth, discuss the gravity of home, and finally wrap up with finding our cosmic hearth.
Section 1. The hearth in the stars, naming our cosmic home. Now, before we actually blast off into space, we really need to ground ourselves in what the name of this planet actually means.
What's super interesting here is that Hestia represents our ultimate desire to belong. In Greek mythology, she isn't some bold explorer. She is literally the goddess of the hearth, of the home, and of architecture. And that is a huge, vital theme woven into all three of the fictional exoplanets we're exploring today. When a creator names a planet Hestia, they're signaling to us that this isn't just a quick pit stop. This is a place humanity is desperately trying to turn into a permanent, enduring home. But as you'll see, building that cosmic hearth is rarely easy.
Section 2. Cherry's hostile Hestia, conquering nature. Our very first stop is a fast, tense struggle to conquer nature in C.J. Cherry's 1979 science fiction novel, simply titled Hestia. So picture this. In Cherry's novel, the struggle to make a world a home is purely physical and, honestly, incredibly fraught. The human colonists are stuck in this large river valley, living in pretty squalid conditions that have dragged on for over a century since the colony was founded. They're constantly plagued by these terrible seasonal floods. To fix this, an engineer named Sam Merritt is sent in to build a massive dam. But, of course, there's a catch. The whole reason the colonists are trapped in this flood-prone valley to begin with is because venturing outside means facing violent attacks from indigenous cat-like aliens. And building this dam, well, it would completely destroy the native habitat of those alien creatures, massively escalating the violence. And that brings us to a crucial turning point. On this version of Hestia, humanity learns the hard way that building a hearth sometimes requires making peace rather than just pouring more concrete. Merritt actually ends up befriending a young native catwoman, and he faces serious hostility from his own people who just want to rush the dam's construction. But he realizes the true architecture of a home isn't about forcing the environment to bend to your will, it's about coexistence. To survive on Hestia, they have to stop trying to conquer nature and the natives and actually find a way to live with them. Section 3. A luminous sanctuary, finding home in another. Let's shift gears to a much more quiet, poetic tone with A.E. Ash's 2015 short story, Luminous. Here, Hestia isn't some bustling, violent colony at all. It's an abandoned proto-colony. 9. That is a heavy number. It brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of isolation our protagonist is dealing with. 9 whole years. That's how long our main character, Jyoti Agrawal, has been completely alone on this planet. She's a 63-year-old xenogeologist who stayed behind at Vanguard Station during the sudden military draft protocol that just whisked everyone else away. So for 9 years, she's been making daily log entries to absolutely no one, watching her hair turn silver, and living this highly regimented, intensely lonely routine on a quiet, grassy planet that was supposed to be a home for humanity. But then her lonely routine is entirely shattered. A literal star falls from the sky. It takes the form of a luminous, glowing young man with gold skin and gold eyes, who she eventually names West. This fireball crashes into the western horizon, and Jyoti goes out and rescues this bleeding, radiant being. The story unfolds as she nurses him back to health. They share meals of standard rations, they measure alien beetles together, and they slowly, tentatively learn to communicate. In this version of Hestia, the planet itself is actually quite gentle. It's the crushing weight of loneliness that acts as the true hostile force. Through this incredibly poetic prose, the story frames Hestia as a quiet sanctuary. But Jyoti really struggles with her age, feeling like she's just too old for this radiant, seemingly youthful being. Then, in just a beautiful twist, West reveals he is an ancient star. He actually uses a reserve of his own light to age his human form, bringing silver to his own hair to match hers so they can grow old together. It's so touching because here, building a hearth isn't about dams or colonial survival. It's simply about an aging scientist finding a true home in the love and companionship of another person, way out in the quiet void of space. Section 4. The Perfect Super-Earth, a Scientific Utopia. We're shifting gears entirely again to our third Hestia. This one is an upbeat, analytical scientific thought experiment by the YouTube channel Kurzgesagt, which sparked a massive and really fascinating discussion over on Reddit. Let's look at the hard scientific parameters for this engineered utopia, which the creators literally named Hestia, by the way. The whole goal of this thought experiment was to design a super-Earth that is even better suited for life than our own planet. The resulting world boasts a Triassic-like climate. We're talking higher temperatures, higher CO2 concentrations, a much thicker atmosphere, and significantly higher gravity. According to the biological models, these exact conditions would allow ecosystems to absolutely flourish on a scale we can barely wrap our heads around, creating extreme biodiversity. It's essentially designed to be the ultimate cradle for life. But wait, when we compare Earth to this theoretical super-Earth, things get incredibly complicated for any intelligent life that might actually evolve there. Reddit users dissecting the experiment pointed out a massive flaw in this so-called utopia. Because of Hestia's higher gravity, combined with an atmosphere that extends much higher and creates massive drag, traditional chemical rockets would be virtually useless. To launch even a tiny probe, you might need a super heavy rocket with 4 more stages, or you'd literally have to resort to highly dangerous nuclear propulsion just to punch through that thick air. Section 5. The Gravity of Home, the Ultimate Prison. And this brings us to a really fascinating narrative irony about our cosmic hearths that bridges all 3 of the works we've looked at today. When you synthesize these 3 wildly different worlds side by side, notice the monumental challenges they all share. Whether it's surviving hostile nature and colonial conflict in Cherry's novel, enduring 9 years of agonizing, mind-numbing isolation in Ash's short story, or trying to overcome the sheer, unbending laws of physics in Kurzgesagt's thought experiment, none of these hearths come for free. They all demand a massive, massive toll from the life that tries to take root there. And as that Reddit thread so sharply noted, the scientific irony of Kurzgesagt's Hestia is what users called the tyranny of the rocket equation. The very things that make this super-Earth biologically perfect, the dense, warm atmosphere and the high gravity holding it all together, literally act as a gravitational prison. Any intelligent species evolving on this perfectly designed hearth would likely be trapped on the surface forever, totally unable to explore the stars the way we do. It's a paradise, for sure, but it has a locked door. Section 6. Finding our cosmic hearth, the ultimate desire. So, what is the big takeaway from this explainer on these 3 fascinating, completely distinct versions of Hestia? Well, it shows us that the concept of home adapts to whatever our needs are at the time. Whether we're fighting seasonal floods to build a dam just to survive, finding warmth in the quiet companionship of a fallen star after a decade of crushing loneliness, or crunching physics and atmospheric data on a planetary scale to maximize biodiversity. Humanity's ultimate drive is finding a place to belong. We take this deeply human need and we project it onto the blank canvas of space, naming our speculative worlds after the goddess of the hearth. But as we learn from our scientific super-Earth, the pursuit of absolute perfection always has a cost. I want to leave you with this final, provocative